Athlete Builder back at it. And as always, we're brought to you by the AEA Institute, where we have the Mental Edge Academy. It's our mental performance where we work with high schools, colleges, and pro teams. Send me an email, info@athlete-builder.com, and we'll get you squared away. Today, we got a lot of things to go over. We got a guy I just met. So shout out Chad Coy, who's been hooking me up lately with awesome guests and cool people to talk to and learn from. Today, we have Adam Feit, a smart guy, PhD guy, professor. Also works in the strength and conditioning world. So Professor Ware, Springfield College, strength and conditioning world, same place, but also is co-owner of TF Performance. And also the mental performance coach working in the hockey world with St. Louis Blues and the Springfield Thunderbirds. Former college athlete, All-American, made the All-Star team, wife, kids, still lifting, still badass, still fighting a good fight. So we have a smart guy, an athletic guy, and one that's driven to check boxes and improve daily. Adam, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity, Jim. Thank you. And again, another shout out to Chad Coy and our strongman community for connecting us. So this is probably the fastest first date I've ever had with somebody who just met the other day and went right into the next level. So excited for today.
I've had plenty of first dates. They usually kind of bomb because they happen so quickly, and there's a quick setup and a quick fizzle out, but that's all right. And I always say I do better with alcohol and dim lighting, give myself a chance out there in the dating world, but I think we'll do just fine.
Yeah. Can't comment too well on the lighting, unfortunately. I am in my bedroom because our router is right next to where it's located in my son's room. So this is the lighting you get. No fancy acoustics. Hopefully it sounds good today.
I think we'll be just fine. All right. So you coach people. You played at a high level. If you could win a national title as a coach or a player, which would you prefer? You only get one.
Oh, a coach, 100%. And that is something I have not done yet. Obviously won some league championships and was part of some great teams as an athlete. But I think the self-satisfaction, maybe I'm just biased because my athletic career has been gone for about 20 years, but to see your vision and the mission and everything that you stand for as a coach, to be able to radiate towards other young individuals, to have them put that into action, I think that's a greater self-satisfaction than anything else that you can put a ring on as a player.
Would the 20-year-old Adam agree, or the 30-year-old?
Ooh, big difference there. 20 years old, not a chance. I remember being part of our football team coming off a 4-6 season, becoming captain, realizing this is our ship right now. We got to change that. So everything was self-driven as an athlete. 30 years old, I would say definitely in agreement right now. A couple years removed, leaving the NFL, leaving Division I, the satisfaction of helping others reach their ultimate potential. I think he'd go with the 40-year-old version today.
Attaboy. So offensive line, right?
That was it. Yep, left guard. Well, it started off as a tight end. Amazing how the recruiting process goes. Got recruited as a tight end by the head coach, lost a bunch of weight to make sure I was fit, ready to fight during camp. Introduced myself the first day of preseason. Literally within 30 seconds of me introducing myself, our OC and line coach said, actually, we're moving you to tackle. So I was like, okay, this is an interesting start. And then I played my first year at tackle, gaining all the weight that I lost. And by the end of my first year, coaches moved me to guard, which was a polite way of saying, great job gaining weight. I think you gained too much weight. So I settled in at the guard position for years 2, 3, and 4. But yep, offensive line mentality. No job too small. Do what needs to be done when it needs to be done to the best of your ability, and everybody else gets taken care of.
Run block or pass block?
Oh, all run. So I come from a program that was triple option heavy, whether it was flex bone, wishbone, shotgun, speed option, belly option. It was run block all day. So a quick funny story on that. When I ended up playing in the All-Star game back in the day at Division III, they used to have something called the Aztec Bowl. So they would take all the D3 top level guys, played with everybody around the nation. And we got down to Mexico. And the coaches said, all right, we're running 5 wide, shotgun, pass sets. And, they started telling stories about a kid who's never done that. And I was like, well, actually, that kid's probably here today. So not my finest last game on ESPN3 stage, but we got it done. But yeah, run block all day, put them on their back and make them question their existence in life as a D lineman.
That's just a 1v1, trying to man up, push the other person back, push the other person down, open a hole. It all has to happen in a burst. say the whole thing about 6 seconds. It's well shorter than 6 seconds. You got to engage and mesh immediately and impose force and will. Most linemen I talk to, they love run blocking.
Yep, it was it. And like you said, it's a 1v1 battle. And I think for us in our offense at the time, and as it's evolved over the years, and obviously the game has changed and the players have changed, but it really was up to the guards because we would open up the crease for the fullback. So when you have that three options between fullback, quarterback, and halfback, if the guard doesn't do their job on the front line, it throws everything off. So back to six and the importance of the number six, our coach would always say, you know, give the fullback 6 inches and he'll get 6 yards. So it all started with us up front.
I didn't play much football at all growing up, and it's a huge regret. Like I was 6'3", 190 at 14 years old, right? So,
Wow.
and just didn't really run with that for a number of reasons. And then I'm in college and I'm in my fraternity, and they're like, "Hey, let's go play football." And I'm like, "Okay." And what I learned right off the bat is when you hit someone harder than they hit you, you don't feel it that much at all. Like
Hmm.
the more I hit them, the less I feel it.
Hmm.
Also, getting hammered by somebody wasn't that bad. It was okay. You kind of bounce a little bit, and then so you get it kind of used to like, hey, I really kind of missed out in high school. And humbly, my high school only lost one game in the 4 years I was there, so which is pretty good stuff. Anyways, I was still big, and the guys I was playing with on my side of the ball were all linemen in high school,
Hmm.
and I'm just having a great time. Like it's super fun. They're like, "Hey, we're gonna teach you a trap play." I go, "That sounds cool. What's that?" So
Yeah.
I'm gonna let this one guy come through, like, I'm gonna block him, but he's gonna come through. And he goes, "Put your elbow in their ear." And, they knock them down because they won't see it coming. And I'm like, "Is that really the thing?" And he's like, "Yeah, that's the thing." And so we ran that, and I did exactly what he said, and that guy went flying, and this big, huge hole opened up, and the running back just ran right through. And I was like, "How neat is that?" Like, how
Yeah.
I didn't know
No
idea
greater
this was
feeling.
I had no idea this is even a thing, this little game within the game. And so when they started teaching me that, I was like, "Oh, man, that's super fun." If you could play for any college program and you're 20 years old or whatever, where would you play?
I think selfishly, I'd like to give a Division One a chance, and I say that because I played for Division 3. I've spent most of my, really all of my teaching career at the Division 3 level, and as you know, Division 3 athletics are built different. There's no NILs, there's no major sponsorships. We're not getting necessarily the trickle down of the portal like we do with C and D1, but I remember many times coaching at the Division 1 level at a variety of institutions. And this is not a shot at some of the guys I've coached, but reflecting back and being like, you're a Division 1 full scholarship player, right? You have 100 plus guys on a team, right? You're going to have the law of the thirds, right? A third of the guys 100% deserve to be there. A third of the guys, all right, we can do some developing. And then a third of the guys, you're like, how did you even get here, right? Whether it's recruiting packages or hometown heroes, whatever the case may be. So I saw that in Division 1. I even saw it when I was in the NFL for a year and just seeing guys of like, wow, like everything from attitude and effort and character and just genuinity and authenticity. And if I could go back, and I don't have any regrets, playing at the Division 3 level and coaching has made me the man, husband, and father I am today. But yeah, I just want to just get some verification, validation. Like, could I have done it? And looking back on my career, I know I could have, but grateful for the journey that I took.
For sure, for sure. Now, hypothetically, playing at the pro level, you got a team that you would love to play for. For me, it's the Cleveland Browns because I grew up in Cleveland. Of course, that would mean an entire career of misery, most likely.
Sure. Yeah.
However, I love what they're all about. I love the dog pound. I love it being right there on the water. I like that there was no dome.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. For the most part, it was all grass. So, but you grow up like that's what you think is the way it should be, and
Right.
so it's kind of woven into your identity, right or wrong. So for me, I would love to play for the Browns. But how about you?
Well, I think growing up in New England, right? Obviously the glory and glamour of being a New England Patriot, I think rings true, especially, growing up in the era of Tom Brady and now, seeing what Mike Vrabel can do now with the guys. But if I could do it right now, and I joke when everybody asks me like what type of fan I am, I'll go to a Pats game if we have tickets from somebody in our community and whatnot. I would love to play for an organization that I have students that are coaches there now. And I think
Man,
that's
That'd be
That's the
huge.
best part. Yep. So we're very fortunate, between our undergraduate program at Springfield College and my wife's program at the graduate level in strength and conditioning. People are asking, who do you want to win? I said, whoever I know on staff. And sometimes they battle each other, but to have that honor to actually go back and reverse roles a little bit and have guys that I've coached now coaching me, I think that would be a pretty cool little trip down memory lane.
There's this guy I had on, uh, and he goes to Lycoming in,
Oh, Wyoming?
no, Lycoming, Lycoming in
Okay.
Pennsylvania. And
Pennsylvania. That's right. Yep.
his, uh, my goodness, his name escapes me. He's 58, and he walked on and made it. He was a
Wow.
powerlifting strongman athlete,
I
and he
saw that recently, right?
yeah,
Facebook. He was the guy deadlifting in the
yeah,
team
right,
workouts. I saw that. Yeah.
yeah. And if he retired from his career, he goes, "I bet I could hold my own."
Hmm.
And so they had him at, like, D end at 220 pounds. They're like, "Oh, man," he goes, "I was just being fed all day long,
Yeah.
just kept being I had to just eat it and eat it and eat it all day." And but he's an older guy with the wisdom, so, "Hey, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to make the guy next to me better." Standing outstanding attitude and approach, and, so he's just running with it, so you coach different kids, different genders, male and female,
Mhm.
right? And, you have young kids you've worked with, but also college, pro kids. Is there a group you're like, "Hey, man, if I could just build an entire gym or program around one group, subsect, one that you prefer?"
It's changed. I think you have to catch me on specific days, right? And the season of life. So I remember leaving undergraduate fully convinced and convicted I was going to be a Division I head strength conditioning coach. That's all I cared about. And I ended up getting that at the age of 24. I was the youngest head strength coach at Division I at a very low ranked program. I think we were at the time ranked 118th out of 119. And you talk about there's nowhere else to go but up, right? So back in the day before becoming a dad and whatnot, it was, I want to develop guys. I want to take those. And a good friend of mine talks about, you got to take kids that are twos, turn them into fours, but make them believe that they're an eight. Right. And I've
Yep.
never forgotten that. So I'm partial to the developmental guys. And then you get older, right? You become a parent, and I'm never going to work with younger kids. And so we've really settled in on this niche of, this, we call it, the 8 to 18 plus range, because there is so much happening at that life stage, right? I've got a 13-year-old and 11-year-old right now. And to see the impact that we can have on a foundational level, things that they're not getting in physical education, literacy in the classes they take, or how PE programs are getting cut back. I've really enjoyed the younger kids, but my heart still kind of lies in that middle school to high school, getting ready for that college level position where
Mhm.
they think they know what it takes, right? My son's going to be a freshman next year, hoping to make varsity as a freshman in soccer. He's a high level player, and we have these conversations of like, your skills have gotten you by, right? But this is a whole different ball game, my man. So we've been chatting about, having a real awesome performance program this summer. My daughter's playing high level AAU basketball with a fantastic coaching staff. And I know there's a lot of horror stories about AAU, and we haven't experienced that yet. So I'm going to ride it as long as I can. But I've really become a little bit age agnostic. It doesn't matter who I'm working with, right? Being in the private sector, you're working with kids that want to be there. You're working with kids that parents want them to get out of the house. And I've really grown accustomed to guys like us. We started, training kids in our garage during the pandemic and got kicked out of our garage because we expanded so much. All of a sudden, here I am in my late 30s realizing, I don't really know a bunch of people in town. I'm known as, Cody's dad on the sidelines or Macy's dad on the sidelines. And I put together a men's training group, and it has been the best thing for my physical and mental health, because now I'm hanging and banging with 25, 30 other guys at 5:30 in the morning, reminding them that they can still do hard things, reminding them that they are capable of getting a little bit closer to the man they want to become, but also reliving those glory days a little bit. In terms of the panoramic view, right? I can't say, I'm a seventh grade girls basketball. I'll work with them all day. It's not about money. It's about the impact. And I think whoever that's going to be, we're trying to make lasting change in their life as long as we can, and as quick as we can for them to buy into their own confidence. And I think that's what I love the most about it.
That's a outstanding answer, and I love a lot of parts of it. a lot of times, well, whenever I ask questions, I always pose the question to myself and like, how would I answer
Sure,
that?
yeah.
And so I remember when I first opened the CrossFit gym, I'm like, we're gonna build a team that's going to this level, and
Sure.
beyond, right? Yeah, and that's kind of silly. That really is. And you start to learn what the general population is like. And when you see that 7% play in college and 2% play D1, that's real. That's real. And we do have kids that come in as twos where they cannot sit down in a chair and stand up correctly. So a basic
Oh, yeah.
squat, but we'll start with a chair or a box, just can you just show me how you sit down and stand up? And we do change their lives physically, right? And a kid that had no idea how to do a broad jump because couldn't make it happen.
You'd
And
be surprised how uncoordinated some people are, vertical jump or long jump or skipping and marching, right?
skipping
Yeah,
skipping's
it's
been
wild.
been fun. Like, it's almost like, "Hey, man, kid, are you fucking with me? Is this really what you're doing?"
Yeah.
Like, because if you are, man, good job, because I'm in on this one. And those poor boys that are, 12 to 14, Bambi on ice, where their feet are the length of their shins, it's it's comical because God knows they're trying.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
do I do like the girls in small groups. That way they're not too distracted and chatty, and I find they are so much more compliant, and they don't screw around as much as the boys do, because boys do dumb shit, and I say that because I have boys, and I am one of
I
those
do
guys.
too, yep. And middle
I've done
school boys are tough. They're touchy, they're grabby, and
yeah,
I'll echo your sentiment there. When we open up a facility in New Jersey, which is still going to this day, Reach Your Potential training with Bobby Smith and his wife Sharon Wentworth, our family, I was, all football everything, so was my business partner. He was the 2008 Olympic trials champion in the javelin. We're thinking we're gonna get all the football guys in, Jersey Shore area. And after 5 years, we ran the numbers, we were 80% female. And it
yeah,
was wild, right?
yeah.
Because yeah, there are some differences, right? I think training from a specificity standpoint, it can be pretty general, right? You gotta squat, you gotta hinge, you gotta press, you gotta pull, you gotta carry, you gotta jump, sprint, and throw. But how you deliver your messages, but I will go to my grave and say females are way better athletes. They are way more coachable and they appreciate you and what you do for them more often than any other, identified male and boy out there.
Well,
100%.
completely agree. Uh, there's this phrase around our family where sometimes our own kids will call and they'll just tell us what's going on in their day, and it could be like something that's completely innocuous, and absolutely it makes no one gives a shit.
Mhm.
They call and they'll call and tell you, "Hey, man, I had this for lunch today, and it was great." I'm like, "You called to tell me you ate chicken fingers? Are you kidding
Heck
me?"
yeah.
Right? And so after enough of that, I'm like, "Hey, don't tell me more chicken finger stories. I'm over it." Right?
Give me something
And
else.
so these younger kids that don't know me at the gym, I have these 8th graders, and they come in and they're wanting to tell me about, the color of their room, the setup they have with their gaming system.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
they're telling me about, "Hey, this haircut happened on this day, and I'm changing my nails and all." Or like, "Hey, this test is coming up in algebra." And, so they come in with the color of the room or
Yeah.
the day they're getting a haircut,
Yeah.
and I tell them the chicken finger story. And I'm like, "Well, this is important. I thought you might wanna know, coach." I'm like, "There's no fucking way I wanna know this shit, but I'm gonna listen
You're
because I
gonna
like
listen
you."
anyway, right?
Right. So then what I've been doing is coming to them with chicken finger stories myself. For example, I was in Cleveland last. I went to this butcher and I had this outstanding bacon. It was super thick cut. And I go into this, "Hey, man, you ever have those moments that change your life? And you look back on and you're like, that was a life changing moment." And I build it up and I talk about this thick cut bacon. And they start screaming and pointing at me. "That's a chicken finger.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a chicken finger story." So um, now the big thing is with us. I don't know if you follow Tom Soroka. Uh, Island Games, Olympic lifter, grid league, strongman, just
Does
awesome,
it all. Yeah.
and a great knowledgeable strength coach. His dad and grandfather were always about, dad jokes, like, jokes that they're
Yeah,
terrible,
yeah. I went
right?
through a little dad joke phase too.
And so he posts one every Friday. So now our group is always doing these dad jokes, just trying to, like, one up each other on how bad is the dad joke. So that's kinda the way that we kinda connect now, which is fun. I think the most fun group to train is wrestlers because they're used to so much pain, like, having their face smashed into a mat, that
You gotta be built different, 100%.
no matter what we do in the weight room, they're like, "Cool, whatever, let's
Yeah.
go." You know,
Yeah.
how mean could you be to me? But I wanna see, they have that different approach. So that's probably the most fun group that 'cause there's, insane.
Right. Well, and they're so used to it. I mean, the culture itself, I mean, whether it's MMA, UFC stuff, or even the wrestlers, right? The caveat to that, though, I'll challenge you there, is because they're so used to the pain and some of the awkward positions, I will say they can be difficult to coach with proper technique because their whole sport is, I just
No
got to figure
problem.
it out, right? I'm in a very unorthodox position. It doesn't matter how I do it. I flip it, I hip turn them, I pin them on this. And so I've noticed over, and I don't work with wrestlers too much at all anymore, but I remember that culture of like whatever it takes. When you're in the weight room and you're working with younger kids and you're trying to establish great movement patterns of setting them up for
Mhm.
long success, sometimes it's like, oh, that's good enough. And I'm like, but it's not, let's
Right.
do this, do it once and do it right. So you don't have to, and I don't have to keep doing it again. But yeah, in terms of that
That's a good point.
mentality, absolutely.
Also, they get a little impatient, having to wait and because their cardio is so high, and I'm saying, "Hey, we're trying to build maximum force here. You have to recover a little bit." I'm like, "Hey, man, coach, I'm good to go." Like,
That's
I'm
tough. Yeah. 3 to 5
I'm
minutes between sets. That's not happening. Yeah.
yeah, so a speed day means that you're going on the minute,
Right.
and so they're getting a 30, 40-second break, and they're kinda bored. One of the things when I work with new people and guests, I have, for those that don't know, I have them do some homework, so it helps prepare for the show, and, Adam was outstanding with his insights here, but one thing you wrote was, "You like to talk about anything coaching-wise, teaching, or sports psychology." So the sports psychology piece, I had a few areas to get into, and I find that with most people, whether you're in sports or not, that it's usually some kind of fear that gets in the way that holds them back a little bit, or some kind of habit, and a lot of times that fear is imagined and not real, but sometimes it is. As you're dealing with athletes and kids, and they come up, you recognize that this is a fearful moment, or they have some overall fears. What are just some instances where you've worked through that with folks and some techniques you guys utilize to help them improve that?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I appreciate you bringing it to light because at every level, and again, I'm working in the pros, I'm working in our community, I'm working in the higher ed academic setting. I'm really driven by, and one day I'll put this in my office, but my core teaching and coaching philosophy comes down to this equation: is high expectations plus high levels of support yield or equal high chances of success. And I think no matter where you are is truly getting them to understand that the standards you have for them, but also this is the missing piece about how much levels of support they truly have. And when you are working with an athlete that has a lot of high standards, not even just for themselves, but for the people, right? Their coaches, their parents. A lot of the sports psychology consulting I do really revolves around the parents and their mismatched expectations for their kids, right? They're 11-year-old stud club basketball, hockey, soccer player, right? And you got to do this and you got to do that. And we know the literature and the experiences of burnout and whatnot. But when it becomes a fear issue, it's almost, and I'm not going to say it's 10 out of 10 or 9 out of 10, but it's pretty darn high where they are afraid of either taking the next step or actually truly believing in themselves because they haven't taken the time to reflect on how good they are, what got them there, and so forth. And when we look at this kind of vicious cycle in sports psychology, and it's kind of borrowed a little bit from the counseling literature, but I talk about this quite a bit, is, this cognitive triangle is what you and I or what any athlete thinks is going to directly impact how they feel, right? So if they think that they're a loser, they think that they're not good enough, they're not strong enough, they don't deserve that offer or they don't deserve that opportunity, it's going to make them feel a certain way. They're going to feel hopeless, they're going to feel worthless, they're going to feel lack of confidence and so forth. And because those thoughts trigger those feelings then trigger these actions and behaviors. And where a lot of people think, oh, it just stops there. No, it doesn't. Because if I think I'm a loser, I feel like I'm a loser, I'm going to start acting like a loser. I'm not going to try as hard. I'm not going to put in the effort that I was once told that was needed to do. And then it's just a perpetual vicious cycle. So when the notion of fear comes in, and I've seen this with kids is, and I'm seeing this in the pro, I'm working with a couple guys right now where they don't have or they don't remember like all of the things that have gotten them to that point. And I have them do a little exercise, right? We talk about like the mental, tape or the film, right? I grew up, we watch film. Now everything's all virtual and whatnot. And when they have a big opportunity in front of them, I said, go back and actually reflect on all of your accomplishments, right? What are those awesome plays that they did? What are some of those awesome conversations and that feedback that you got from your coaches and your support systems? Because we often forget about that. We just see and we feel all of these expectations. And again, when you're working with perfectionistic type A personalities, right? It's got to be perfect. And I see this in the classroom too, right? The kid that doesn't get an A, right? At the end of the day, nobody's going to ask for your GPA in the real world, right? Did you get a degree? What happened from that? But in sports, they miss out on that because they're always working on to the next thing. So I spent a lot of time, and I put this a little bit in the notes about self-reflection, right? We often spend so much time, and to use a metaphor here, right? We're sitting in the car, our eyes, and this goes for all the parents and coaches out there too. You're always on to the next thing, right? On to the next championship, on to the next goal, on to making the next team. We spend so much time in the driver's seat or passenger seat sitting and looking through the windshield. We hardly take any time to actually sit there in neutral. And this is kind of where like mindfulness practice comes in. And we take a moment to sit and look in the rearview mirror, right? What have I done? How did I get here? What am I doing to keep me here? And what are some of the small actions that I can take to move me a little bit further down that road? And one of the best pieces of advice I got, I read this book years ago, and I bring this up almost every time when I'm doing events like this, is making the big time where you are. Everybody is so fixated on the outcome, right? And this ties back into process goals and performance goals and outcome goals. Everybody wants to measure success about what happened, right? Well, guess what? If you're doing goal setting the wrong way, did I achieve this or did I not achieve this? It's very binary. It's black or white.
Hmm.
But reality, the big time isn't what lies at the end of the road, it's the road itself. And so I spend so much time, even with our students, and the running joke in our department is like, uh, my office is kind of like a New York deli. Like you got to take a ticket and wait because my office is in and out, just kids come in, talking about all aspects of life. But we got to take some time to truly sit with them and reflect and remind them how good they really are. And we pose a lot of questions and whatnot. But if it comes to exams, if it comes to tryouts, I go, hey, like, when in your life did it not work out? Like, when in your life did you not get that assignment done? Right? When in life did you not really make the team or miss or make the point? Right? You have a record of success. And how is any of that going to change right now? And 8, 9 times out of 10, it doesn't, but they forget that. So I think that's a big piece about a lot of kids I see. They are fearful of how good they can actually become, and it's not about doing hard things. It's not about doing harder things more often, but it's about remembering how good they really are. And sometimes you need people in your life. That's not mom and dad. That's not your sport coach. And this is where I challenge a lot of our strength conditioning professionals in the industry of like, guys, we can do elements of sports psychology and little amounts of counseling without actually stepping outside our scope of practice. We can make a difference in these kids' lives. And that's why I love the weight room. Everybody asks me like, how come I didn't coach football? How come I didn't coach my kids in their sports beyond kindergarten soccer and whatnot? I said, because at the end of the day, the weight room doesn't care if you're a starter, if you're a newcomer, if you're a walk-on. All the weight room cares about is that you're there to get better. And I can use that as a neutral playing ground, a neutral training ground. If it doesn't matter where you are right now, it matters where you're going to become. And so I always go back to, and I remember that reading this over 20 years ago, places like that and positions that we're in, you never look at an athlete for who they are now. You look at them for who they're going to become. And with great guidance and support and having high standards, you can see a lot of great things. And some kids figure it out earlier than later. Some kids take a lot longer than earlier, but they
Hmm.
always figure it out. And if I can be a small piece in that puzzle and help support them towards becoming their ultimate best, it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah. Mm. That's a good answer. That was a long answer, but it was comprehensive, and I
You get
took
me
a
going. I'm just going to keep going around. It's like
right.
National Lampoon's European Vacation.
Big
Look,
Ben
Mom, look,
Parliament.
Ben.
Um, I totally agree, which is not good. They say on the shows you should have some, discourse where you're not getting along, but that's gonna be challenging today because we think alike. For the swim I did last year, I kept a journal, and so different moments were different days where new fears popped in there. And even at 50 years old, I was like, hey, I'm in the pool and I'm thinking about, boy, I'm only swimming 500 meters is my longest swim. I have to swim miles in the Hudson. And I would sit there and think about something that's a year away
Sure.
and it would creep in. And I'm like, just focus on getting down to the other end of the pool and turn around. Like, I would have to tell myself out loud doing these things. And I know all the kids do the same thing. But keeping the notes, like you say, you need to enjoy the moment and recognize how good you actually are. When I would go back and look at the prior month, I would anytime I had a new personal record or a personal like a process record, I had tracked that and I wrote down, I felt afraid today, but I did this. And I look at all these times I had a new fear that I worked through. So I'm
Mhm.
like, well, now it's just the next fear I'm working through. Right.
And that's a mental scoreboard. And I think, and I know this just from lived experience working with, kids, my kids' age and even professionals, is you become so addicted to the process from a technical aspect. And this is where, again, I'm challenging the norms, right? We spend so much time on paying for these teams. We pay so much time for these private clinics and coaches and even strength conditioning services. But the art of the mental game is so completely lost on the people because they look at it. And this is what my research was. I interviewed Division I strength conditioning coaches. And I remember one of the first questions I asked was like, hey, you bring up sports psychology. Like, what does that mean? And the answers were so vast and wide and had no clue. It automatically went to depression and anxiety, or it went to counseling and it went to therapy or it went to psychiatry. And I'm like, wow, this is such an untapped market. The
Hmm.
problem is that traditionally, and this is not everybody, but a lot of people that work in that space don't truly understand the demands and the rigors and the expectations of high level performance. They either haven't played the game, they don't understand the language, the jargon, the feel of the locker room, right? They haven't been in the locker room when you lose the last game of the year. And for many of us, that's a lot of us, right? And so how do you navigate that? And a big project I have in my horizon, going a little bit off tangent topic here, but this transitioning out of athletics, right? We spend so much time onboarding kids to a program, right? It could be at the gym. It could be welcome to college athletics, right? This is who you got to talk to. If this hurts, you go see them. This is the standard. This is the life of the itinerary. And yet you lose the last game of the year. And then the coaches come in and it's the same old speech. I've been part of a lot of teams, right? Well, that didn't go the way we wanted it to go. This is the last time this team will ever be together again until the banquet, if that's even a thing. Meet with your coaches, do an exit interview, and we're going to be on the road recruiting. And that's it. And so now you have an athlete that has spent their whole entire life, and I'm talking from a collegiate setting now, where their workouts were written for them, their diet plans were taken care of, right? They had academic counseling and tutors and whatnot. And now they're just left. So I think we're making some good headway there. I don't think it's where it needs to be. And as I continue in my higher ed process, that's a big project of mine I want to get into. If I get granted sabbatical one year, where I'm gonna take a full 6 months to a year and really try to put together a product to help parents and athletes navigate this offboarding process because they're no longer playing for that jersey and they're no longer playing that sport for at a high level, right? Your collision sports, right? Yeah, you can play some beer league hockey or you can do some intramurals here and there, but for a lot of people, they're never going to play that sport again. So how can we transition them away into something more life fulfilling for many years to come?
Man, that's huge. And completely unaware of that until I talked to some other folks, and I've talked to people that they cancel Super Bowl winners who can't fill out an application because, like, "Well, I won a Super Bowl, man. I'm at this high level," like, so their identity is so woven into it, and
Mhm.
then I got a better taste of it personally because my son finished at Ball State in December, and he's done, right? And, like, I opened my gym when he was 10,
Mm.
right? He's been lifting, you know,
Yeah, for half his
years.
life at least. Yeah.
Yeah, so I go, "What are you not gonna do?" He goes, "I'm not catching any cleans over 300 pounds anymore, I hate that,"
Yeah.
you know, because it lands on me, it hurts, you gotta be so braced, and I'm tired of catching 300 plus cleans.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Okay," and so, it's not even they're losing the competitive piece, which is huge. Also, the structure, hey, you lift here, you eat here, your class is here, your film is here. You don't think, you're robotic in that you don't have to decide anything. But at any point in time, he's gonna hang out on a 100-man roster, 50 he'll see 50 guys that he wants to hang out and talk to that day at least. Or whether they live with him or they're at the dining hall or they're at practice or film, like,
Mhm.
there's this, this ecosystem of support, and then these are my guys, right? And at the last 5 years in college and high school, it's similar, but not as close, right? And now he goes from living in Muncie, Indiana to Nashville, Tennessee.
Great place to live.
Yeah, one person apartment, one or a two bedroom, and he has like a little side hustle he likes to do, and he has his job which he likes, and he has some family, some cousins, aunts, and uncle that live in Nashville. But then you go from all that ecosystem and structure to a 40-hour week is like he goes 40 hours, man. That's like by Wednesday or Thursday
Yeah.
of
Like,
all. Oh,
what do I do with all
yeah,
this extra time?
and then there's all my friends are gone, right? That is huge. And so the win the day mantra is for you trying to build yourself daily, and a win might simply be operating at 20% of what you were just doing, right? And you getting that piece going and
And
finding a
that's
new why,
yeah, yeah.
right?
And it's a hard transition because like you said, right, you go from everything scheduled out and sketched out to now I got to learn how to grocery shop. Now I got to learn how to pay bills. Now I have to move to a completely different area and establish a new community. And I think that ties in really well. There's a big theory out there, and that's the running joke in psychology, right? Nothing's ever proven, right? Research doesn't prove anything; it just gains insights. But a very popular theory is about these ideas of basic needs from a psychological sense, right? So if we go back to like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? You need food, you need shelter, and all that. But from a psychological perspective, there's three main areas, right? Athletes or anybody, people in general, to improve their intrinsic or internal motivation. They want autonomy. They don't actually want to be told what to do all the time in all aspects of their life, right? They want to have some agency or choice. So you've got autonomy you got to work with. And sometimes in this transition, now they have too much autonomy. They don't know what to do because they can make all these decisions. Um, and then you're looking at competence, right? You're looking at this notion of like, am I going to be really good at these types of things? But the big one here is relatedness, and that's a community feel. And when we transition outside of this, and we don't have those group chats, we don't have those 50 people lifting together for the same common goal, research continues to suggest that like this is a big piece of like, how do I find new people? How do I keep those people when you're having kids, when you're moving jobs, when you're getting married, when you're getting divorced, and so forth? And so that's one of the big pieces of when we're talking about these areas of like, how do I satisfy these needs? You want to improve motivation, look at these key psychological needs. And as a coach, how can you help them move the needle a little bit closer towards that full level of motivation? All right. It's not going to be, and I remember we chatted the other day, it's not always going to be Jocko Willink videos. It's not going to be David Goggins video. It's not going to be Tony Robbins. That's going to work. And then it's not going to work. And so if you constantly have to rely on external forms to get you going, I always encourage you reflect on the inside. And what are some of these key areas that you're going to be missing here?
You can tie it back to their identity and their why a little bit. Their whys change. What I tell people is that intention plus repetition creates the person you must become. So
Mhm.
intention and repetition. So when I was done doing strongman, because I broke my foot, I had herniated discs again and tore ligaments in my hand and blah 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 and a blood clot, all in 12 months. I'm like, okay, so I'm good here. But I spent 9 months. I would still go to the gym and train 4 days a week, two upper, two lower, just so I'm doing my keeping my discipline. I don't want to lose discipline. It wouldn't be like what I was training, but I would walk more in the morning and do a lot more cold things in the cold so that I will just find out just it's okay that you don't have an answer, but what would you like to do next? If it's nothing, all right, just keep walking and maybe tomorrow or maybe next
Mhm.
week. And
Mhm.
so I just gave myself the grace that I'm gonna took wherever it takes, took me about 9 months. I'm gonna find some new targets.
Yeah.
And one was, humbly, I'm gonna write something down and help help some other people get better again, right? And then I started thinking about this podcast and expanding my reach that way. And then this whole podcast thing just became selfish, and then I get to talk to people like you every week where I learn. I'm like, come on, man, that's pretty fun. For
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you're a dork like I am, it's pretty fun. So it does take time to give yourself some grace and to reflect and just listen. Like what could be next? What about something specific? They'll say, do you have the yips when you're putting? Or you going in the get like I was at this one college pitching my, software. I'm like, "Talk about fears," and like, "Well, this guy throws up before every practice." I'm like, "Fuck, man,
Mhm,
that's not sustainable."
mhm.
Right? Talk about something very, like, not I'm fearful all the time, I can't move forward, but, like, in a
Right.
moment in the moment, your thoughts and best practices with
Yeah,
that
yeah.
piece.
That's a great question. First day of spring here and golf season is coming up. So I know golf will be here, and then I do some sports psych work with our summer league baseball team. So yips is common, right? So this notion of, the fear of doing the things that are so basic, right? Throwing the ball, just hitting the ball, whatever the case may be. So, two to three strategies that I always anchor down to is one is really centering yourself. And research and experiences are very clear, right? Being mindful of your breath, because the breath has, and I hate, man, I hate this because I get all the new books, right? The popular psychology books, the self-help books, the research, and I'm like, everybody keeps like, really, is breathing, is it that simple? And it is, because the way we breathe and the way that influences our parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest, the removing of the fear, right? Because you look at how sympathetically driven we are, right? Achieving things, making great results happen, etc. Uh, Centering ourselves with our breath is usually step one. Step two is now, I call this, and I kind of borrowed this from my work with some special operators in a previous job, but they call it like segmenting the suck, right? So when you're looking at like boot camps or the crucible, it's not about I'm going to finish. It's about how do I get through the next 10 minutes? How do I get through the next day, right? You have to narrow your focus, which again goes into sports psychology techniques when you're looking at broad and narrow and internal and external, of how do I segment everything that I have to get done to this very moment. And golf is a great example, right? You see it in tennis, golf, baseball. We're so conditioned on like getting those results that what do I really have to do? Okay. In golf, and there's a great book out there, Golf is Not a Game of Perfect. We have the power 100% to saying, okay, I shanked that drive, which happens to me all the time, right? And I have a fear of my driver. I just don't play enough, and I'm like, I'll just use my irons. I feel more comfortable. But where I miss that putt, guess what? I drive the cart and I can start again. And so wiping the slate clean and segmenting that of like, okay, bringing it down to hole by hole, right? Baseball, it's pitch by pitch, whether I'm a hitter or whether I'm a pitcher. And then the third piece there is, so after I've centered myself, after I've essentially segmented it down, now, which has worked really, really well, is now you influence with the self-talk of being very mechanical, right? When you're working, at least my experience, especially in baseball, is they're afraid to throw to first base if you're a shortstop or third baseman, right? You're afraid to, swing at that pitch, whatever the case may be, is being very mechanical and actually coaching yourself. So now we get into the instructional self-talk model. You have to continuously remind yourself what to do. And the more you move past that, the less you have to do it. But one of the easiest fixes is okay. And it's being very strategic with your cues, right? It's grab the ball, it's point the elbow, point the glove, eyes on the target. And you're gonna see that, and I see that quite a bit. They may not say it directly out loud, but you can see in their mind that they are coaching themselves on like, remove everything else from it. What are the 1 to 3 small action steps I need to do? And so golf is very similar to that. Is it head down? Is it 8 inches back? Right? Whatever the case may be. So when you can figure out a routine, and again, this stuff takes time, right? It's, oh, I brush my teeth once in a while, or I put deodorant once in a while. I mean, I'm in that puberty stage with my kids right now. It's like, no, you have to do this religiously, intentfully, mindfully, and consistently. They're going to work themselves out of it, but it's always going to be there. And then once you get that confidence reestablished, then the confidence comes back, and then you don't have to rely on such a rigid structure of coaching yourself through that. But I would say from a take-home strategy is slowing down that breathing rate, bringing that heart rate down, centering yourself, being mindful of like reducing the noise, right? Signals and noises, focusing on this one specific action, and being mindful with your instructional. And I won't even say positive self-talk. I think when everybody looks at self-talk in our industry, it's, happy-go-lucky. It's almost like toxic positivity. And you can't. You might be a guy that responds really well to getting mother effed or telling yourself that you suck and you don't deserve this, right? And I won't go in that domain unless we have to, if they respond well to that. But instead of being positive, it's being pragmatic. It's being realistic and coaching yourself like a very mechanistic action, you're going to be able to work through that. So those would be my top three things, especially in that domain of things like the yips.
Okay, so the breath work, totally agree. I like the box breathing approach. It was funny. I read a lot of nerd stuff, as you see, like, things behind me. At night, before I go to bed, I read Mind Candy, and, so it's just sugar for your brain, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, I like
And
that.
so I'm reading this book, it's called I just read it, Assassins Anonymous, and it's like Alcoholics Anonymous, but there are
Hmm.
these assassins that are trying not to kill people anymore, right? And they have
Dang.
these group therapy sessions, and it's fictional, obviously, but, their prior lives creep back in, and now there's conflict, right?
Right.
And it's funny that this guy, former operator, and he gets into this conflict, and in the book, he goes, Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4." I'm like, "Did you just do box breathing in this assassin book?" I'm laughing out loud, catching that. So even there, yeah, so I totally agree. The first thing you learn in Lamaze is focal point and breathing, right? So
Yeah,
it's
that's it.
yeah,
It's what is it? It's a distractional technique to
yeah,
remove yourself from the pain that you're experiencing. And oftentimes, again, this is from the special operators, but going back to your swimming analogy, right? They would talk about these notions of like remembering a song lyric and just put it on repeat all
yeah,
the time, every time. And just once you distract that, and we talked about that. We did a big winter competition, like many programs and whatnot. And you see this in competitions that are a little bit like glycolytic in nature. It's 30 to 2 minutes of just pure pain. It could be a wall sit. It could be on a Rogue Echo bike or a fan bike or a sled push where it's like you can physically feel, the
yeah,
hydrogen ions building up, right? That maybe
right,
the unsettlingness in the throat you're going to throw up, but some distraction techniques. And that's one of the easiest things that you can do is how do you remove yourself
right.
from the physical pain that you're feeling? And again, you can't rely on it all the time, but when you're doing those techniques, it's a short-term fix, but eventually you're conditioning your mind to remember that response. So then it just becomes automatic. And it's just a lot of pieces that I continue to see, like coaches, they're just saying work harder, right? Or run faster. And it's like, no,
It's
you're
just that
you're
easy.
really, yeah, again, if it was that easy, right? It's just
Yeah.
like training, right? You've got a lot of books in my library. I've got books on methods from Russians, from Eastern Europe, from Nebraska, right? If there was one way of doing it, we'd all be reading. That would be the only book on our
That'd be the
bookshelf.
only book, yeah. The thing that kills me on the positivity piece is, like, I see this all the time in my gym. Someone's getting ready to do a lift, and people are yelling out, "You got this." And I'm like, "Motherfucker, you don't have this," right? Not because someone says you got this. So, I'm sitting there, and it's gotta be usually 1, no more than 3-word cues. I'm like
Yeah.
so once they're set, so I'm like, if it's a deadlift, I'm like, "You're gonna pull for 4 seconds, buddy. Get that in your head first. It's gonna take you at least 4 seconds to pull that up, so you be comfortable pulling that long. And as long as it keeps moving up, I'll walk you through what happens next. So when it's at the knee, I'm yelling, squeeze, I mean, squeeze her ass,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So I'm giving, like, one-word things of what to
Yeah,
do,
yeah.
so it's directional. Not the, "You got this," unless my wife comes up to me and
But
smacks
it's
me.
false hope, right?
Right,
And
it
I
is.
think again, it's not viewed upon in the best regard in our field of sports psychology, but like Ted Lasso, if you had not seen it, I highly recommend it. And
I just
it is
started maybe a month ago.
Jim, it is a masterclass
It is.
in training the mental game, right? And again, there's some raunchy British humor, which I always appreciate. But
Yeah,
and
thank
I
God.
remember they say it in there, and I won't spoil the whole thing, but there's a episode in there where they say it's the hope that kills you. And when you have false expectations, you get a false belief model. You send a kid into that max effort deadlift, falsifying their belief in themselves and their abilities. And then here's my question and hot take for all the coaches out there. You said they got it and now they didn't. So
Yeah,
how are you going to respond?
yeah,
And this is a call to action for all the coaches of like, if you're going to put kids under that bar, let's say it's above 90%, which we deem, pretty much max effort. Do you have the emotional intelligence to read the room, to read the cues that they're giving and saying, you know what? Yeah, I'd like you to get 3, but today's the day you're going to do 1 and continually build them up, right? It's micro adjustments to their program because, and some people disagree with me, but I come from the background of if they set a PR, you shut them down. You did it, right? Is it really worth another 5, 10 pounds? Because guess what? They are feeling on top of the world right now. And are you going to take that away from them? Because we know from psychology, we have a negativity bias. We are always going to remember the bad things that happen in a situation. And so they set a PR. And then you're like, oh, great. Yeah, let's go up another 10, 20 pounds. They're not going to remember that they got the PR. They're going to remember that they got stapled or they got
Sure.
hurt. And
So
now
I
how are you dealing with the blowback and downfall of that confidence just
oh,
shattered
it's
in front of you?
huge. So when I tell athletes, I'm like, "Hey, if I call a number because I see what you just did, you absolutely have it. You have out because I will take all responsibility because I made the call. I watched it. You can't see it in your mind's eye. I know it felt slow. I know what I saw, right? So you feel one thing, I see another. So if I put this weight on you, you have it unless something completely goes to shit. But then before you make that call, you in your head, God damn it, you better have it. You better know, coach, right? Because you're making that call. Because once you start losing that trust, well, you said I had it last time. What the hell do you know? So
Yeah.
it's tenuous. So you got
Well,
to
they're
know.
like bears. They can smell and they can smell it from
Yeah.
10 miles away, right? If you're not selling your ability to believe in them in that given moment, they're gonna
Yeah.
know.
Oh
And
yeah.
they're gonna go in there with false.
And then they'll feed off that and it'll be in their psyche and then they will feel the same way.
Mhm.
So you got to tell them in very direction, what happens next. And if they don't make it, you got to own it as a coach. That was my mistake. I saw the last one. I was wrong in how I assessed that speed or whatever. But that's not on you. That's absolutely me. That's my mistake. You have to do that because otherwise they'll sit there and just be hurt. And to your point about going for a second PR, when you're at your max, you probably did at least one and probably three sets above 90%.
Mhm.
Your nervous system is wrecked. So now you gotta pull it all together again for something more. And I'm like, "You don't have that, buddy." And when they ever have a miss, they pick the number that say, "Hey, I don't think you have this," and they do it anyways. And then
Drives
they
me
don't they
nuts.
they they don't get it. And then they're like, "Hey, I'm just gonna knock it off 5 pounds or bring it down 10 so I can still get a PR or I still get a heavier number for whatever for the board." I'm like, "Whatever you do next, unless you drop 20%, you don't have that at all. Because now
Mhm.
you are over 100% on your nervous system because you just
Yeah, yeah.
missed. You
And
just
and
missed."
and this goes into the arousal regulation, which I think is a mental skill that we don't regulate enough. We often think, and I go to coaches about this all the time, not everybody responds to Rage Against the Machine, AC/DC, gangster rap, like rattle the chains in the weight room, all attention. And I've done it, right? Blow the whistle, everybody's and you see the videos online, right? Not everybody responds at such a high threshold of activation. You've got some people that, and we call it the Goldilocks principle, right? People respond differently. They respond to what's right, right? It could be the middle zone, a little bit of activation, a little bit of arousal, a little bit of anxiety. It's all good. And then you got your low responders. And I was a low responder guy. And I remember out to the day, we were a nationally ranked football team in college and we were in the locker room playing, flip the water bottle, hanging out. I would listen to emo alternative rock, like about breakups and stuff. And coach is like, you guys aren't ready. And I'm like, we're loose, coach. Like we don't need to flip the switch. And I talk about this all the time with coaches is like, not everybody is going to respond to those high threshold activation where you got the smelling salts and the ammonia capsules and the slap on the
The
tail and
backslaps,
the
yeah,
piercing of the ears.
right?
Some people do. And this is my challenge to coaches is, hey, spend a little bit more time with them, right? If you're going to take time to assess them physically, do the same thing psychologically. There's a wide variety of tests of personalities or just getting to know your kids. And what we know, the coach athlete relationship is the number one predictor for the success. And spend time with them and get to know them for who they are as individuals, and then you can coach them better. And that's hard to do when you got 50, 100 guys, whatever the case may be, or you got a club soccer team that comes in, you only see them twice a week. I get that, but can you do a little bit better? And what does doing a little bit better, a little bit more often actually do for you in the long run?
In my book, I point out there's 2 athletes I reference. One, all I have to do is go up to her and say, "Hey, this is what this other person did," and she's like, "On it.
Mhm,
I'm gonna smash her."
mhm.
This other one, I will go up to her and say, as she's laddering up, "Hey, this looks great. Technique looks good. You're completely safe. Let's just add a little bit more. I'm gonna put this weight on." I'm not even tell her what it is. So you have to manage that, and that's the art of coaching, not the um, science behind it. For me, like I usually listen to country when I'm just hanging out.
Yeah.
I know I'm gonna lift. If I wanted to be deep in my head because it's a dark place kind of day where we're gonna be in pain, which is I would do that for certain purposes. Um, like I'll listen to the haka of the
Yep. The rugby, New Zealand, and
the
yeah.
rugby. I'll listen to that rendition or I got a Creed song I listen to and a couple and, a Kid Rock song, but there's this one haka, it's performed at this Polynesian school because one of their favorite teachers died. And the teacher's in the hearse, and the hearse and the car procession is parading onto the school grounds, and all the kids are there in uniform outside lining the driveway, and there's like 500 kids all
Wow.
performing this haka for this fallen teacher that they just loved. And it was like vicious and violent in their approach, but it was so humbling in that it was just is out of love, right? And they just love that guy. So if you were going for a max effort lift back in the day, Adam, or it's a hard, heavy sled push or a 1v1 moment, or if it's playing Oklahoma, right?
Mhm,
Nutcracker,
mhm.
what would you listen to then?
Oh, I got a couple, and I still got them. I created in our dad's group. I asked them in the intake questionnaire, like, "What's your go-to song?" Right? So, mine, I remember it's on YouTube, so I'm not a fraud. But I remember the day we played Army when I was at Eastern Michigan. My wife, fiance at the time, bet me that I couldn't squat 405 for 10 back in the day. And I was like, I'm going to make sure I do that. And I'm going to call you out on that. So I ended up doing it for 11 for an extra rep just in case. But my go to song is Seven Mary 3 Cumbersome. And I throw that on and it just stirs up the demons and it's the heavy guitar riffs. I'm a big fan of Rage Against Machine and Bulls on Parade. I mean, I was born in the 80s. I grew up in the 90s and those were the times where you knew the songs because that's all you had. You had a CD player and you would open up the CD case and you would memorize the lyrics. And so those are my go-to. And when those come on, Boy Sets Fire, High Wire, Escape Artists, it's got some grunge and it's got some heavy riffs to it. So, but I've learned to condition myself. I remember I was squatting in the garage and, my daughter was in there playing around and all of a sudden the Frozen soundtrack comes on and I'm like, am I going to be mentally tough enough to not let Elsa and telling me to let it go,
Right,
to actually not let it go? And
right.
I use an example in class all the time. Like you have to condition your nervous system. And I credit a lot of great coaches over the years where can you lift 90% and can you lift 100% like you were lifting at 70%? Because you're not amping up to lift a 70% load. And because the higher and faster we raise that activation, guess what? The higher and faster it falls.
Falls down, yeah.
And if you're gonna ask them to do it again and again, you're cooked, man. You are
Yeah,
absolutely cooked. So I've learned to regulate that. Again, I competed in strongman, powerlifting, Olympic lifting, and whatnot. And so when I'm competing now, I'm more about like a regulation dial. There's no switch anymore. Do I need to amp it up a little bit? Do I need to bring it down a little bit? I'm always trying to live in the middle where it doesn't cost too much energy to ramp up or come down.
yeah. Totally agree. There's people in the gym, it has to be ramped up, all the stimulus, all the time. I'm like, you're not conditioning your brain to be stronger, right?
Yeah,
It's all external. And Louis Simmons would be talking about that, even though they would be cranking AC/DC all the time.
sure, sure.
But that uh Zadrunas Savickas,
Oh
right?
yeah, the Z press. Yeah.
So he would train in silence so that,
Mhm.
at the Arnold, when it's super loud and all the people are cheering and there's music going, he's like, "There's so much adrenaline then that I'm not used to having that I can go up for sure and tap into it." He wanted to make sure he could train in silence all the time and just be in his head like a psycho
Yeah.
when he was outstanding, right? Sadly, I'm only like 12.5% into my questions, but I wanna be, like, respectful of time and all stuff we got going on, so I'm gonna crank through these rapid fire ones and then send you on your way, but, I'm already wanna thank you for the gift of your time and your insights. This is pure fun for me. And I got the the question already out of the way, about the music. Bucket list adventure, just you and your wife, you haven't done it yet.
I don't know if she'll come with me because she's a little bit of specific with her food choices, but I would love to do the whole backpacking Europe thing. I missed out on that in college before real world hit. I would love to just take 2 to 4 weeks, back up minimalist. I don't know if I'd stay in hostels after watching the movie that came out many years ago, but I'd love to
Bolt
get
the
to
bolt
Europe.
cutter and the Achilles tendon?
Oh yeah, it's just maybe we'll stay in the Marriott. I don't know, but I've been to London and I've been to China and Taiwan and Australia for business and whatnot, but I'd love to just do Europe the right way and just take it all in.
Attaboy. Um, favorite sports movie?
Wow.
I got like 20, so
There's so many.
whatever.
I mean, man, remember the Titans? I mean, I just watched Miracle. I mean, Hoosiers. There's so many good ones out there, and I think we're at a really great stage in our life with the kids of like getting them to watch
Watch
these.
those.
Yeah.
How about a comedy sports movie?
Ooh, I mean, can I go with dodgeball? I mean, that's a classic.
If you could dodge a wrench, you could dodge a ball. For
I
me,
and
it's all
I give bonus point. That's how you know you're old, right? So I'll give bonus points. I call them flex points because I'm a meat stick strength coach. But I'll just lay out a line, and I'm like, all right, flex points for the next exam, and I'm like, you didn't watch Wedding Crashers? You haven't seen dodgeball? So I actually use the dodgeball lines quite a bit when we're talking about change of direction and agility, and that line comes up quite a bit.
oh man, for me, it will always begin and end with Major League.
Oh, classic Charlie Sheen. Yeah,
Yeah,
can't
all
go
of it.
wrong with that.
Favorite sport to watch?
This is a safe place, right? There's a judgment-free zone. It's like Planet Fitness without the
Yeah,
free bagels.
please say curling.
I love
I just
curling.
said please say curling, and you said it at
I
the same
love it,
time.
man. I love it.
You're the second person ever to say curling.
Oh, I had a student actually, his brother was a high level curler, and we do a 12-week full intensive strength conditioning program. And he said, "Can I do it on curling?" I said, "Well, you're not really doing any speed or agility or conditioning. I got to really see that." And I go, "But I'll entertain it." And he did a bang up job. When that comes on, we were watching the Olympics.
Yeah.
I'm glued to the chair, and I'm just watching
Get out, man.
the
Okay,
focus and the teamwork. Love it.
uh, could be alive, could be dead. Favorite athlete to watch or would want to watch?
I'm gonna go with alive, and I'm gonna pull a string from my kids' lives. I love watching my kids play, and
Oh
I
boy.
love. My wife makes fun of me because I
Oh
won't talk to
man.
anybody. I love being there as dad, and it has taught me so much. And this is a call to all the parents out there: just shut up, watch your kids play. Don't argue with the refs. Don't argue with the other team. They can teach you so much about what you have helped develop. I love it. I'm all locked in all the time.
You have a book recommendation for us?
Actually, I just picked this up. Let me see if I still have it. Yep. So I actually got two right now I'm working through. The Way of Excellence by Brad Stulberg right here. This one just came to me. Mad respect to Brad. He reached out to me cold DM on Instagram. Has been following my work for a little bit. So I picked that up out of him. And then I am working on, for my advanced class, rethinking return to play. Because I tell my coaches, I said, in the age of AI and sports science and whatnot, one of the first things you have to be able to do is manage the return to play process and have great relationships with your athletic trainers and physios and whatnot. So those are the two I'm working through right now.
Should I send you one? Or
I would love one. And if you could autograph it with an 8x10 photo,
8x10?
centerfold, I would appreciate that.
Yeah, you gotta fold it out, man. I'll be wearing something revealing, of course. Okay, yes, I'll need an address when we get off here.
You got it.
Uh, this person could be real or fictional. Favorite superhero?
I was big fan of Wolverine. I remember I wanted to name our firstborn Logan for the name of Wolverine, and just love the tenacity, the emotional regulation. But when he had to flip the switch, there was no turning back. So big Wolverine fan. And actually, one of my coaches at the gym is an artist, and he hand sketched one. It hangs up in my office. It's one of the greatest gifts I ever got.
Villain?
Ooh, you know what? I got to go with the Joker. I mean, just maybe it's Heath Ledger and The Dark Knight, but just a master class of manipulation and psychological warfare. I mean, fantastic, and may he rest in peace. What a great character overall.
That's the most common answer is the Joker. I say Hannibal Lecter. I saw
That's,
that.
I mean, you want to take that to the OG status without cartoon and Marvel and DC. I'd have to agree with you. That is a really great choice.
I saw that in the theater the weekend it came out,
Wow.
and right before, like, he's laying down in the ambulance with that person's face on his face, and right before that happened, I go, "He's gonna pull that off." And it
Yeah.
happened, they just finally hit me like, "Oh my god, he's"
I saw that in
that's and I'm like, "Holy shit," and I was like, "Oh my god," he went so deep in what he had to do to get out. I'm
yeah.
like, out.
They did
Anyways,
that
he's
in they did that in Jack Reacher season 1. I remember that. I won't spoil that. That's another great show to watch into. But they had that similar, and I thought of that. And I've never looked at lamb chops ever the same ever since Hannibal Lecter's.
right. Favorite lift?
Big clean guy. I loved it. Explosive. I was good at it. Partial to the deadlift. Love that type of stuff too. I mean, just I mean, really, the clean is just a more athletic version of the deadlift. There's nothing more primal and just foundational setting than an actual deadlift. So those are my go-to when I competed.
Mine was squat because, it always scared me the most, and so every time I would stand up with a heavy squat, I was like, "That was good for me. That was good for me." And then
And
at
I
at,
say that, yep,
Atlas
when you're
stones.
yep, yep. I love those. The squat, I always use, what a great metaphor for life. You got something heavy, you're holding a burden, it's trying to pull you down. And are you going to be stronger than that? And are you going to stand up and squat again? So
Yep,
that's
yep.
a good one.
Where can people find you, Adam?
Western Massachusetts, if you ever get lost on the Mass Pike, we are exit, I believe it's 50 on the Mass Pike, about 90 minutes west of Boston, but I am pretty active on LinkedIn, so you can look me up there. Instagram, my personal one is AE Fight, so my last name. And then our business Instagram is Train with TFP. So TF Performance stands for Team Fight Performance. It's a whole family business. We are owned and operated by my wife and I, and we've been doing this for 6 years now, and hopefully many more to come.
And for you guys that look up Fight, it's F-E-I-T, not F-I-G-H-T. So, Adam, Fight. And again, shout out Chad Coy for connecting us. As always, send us emails and questions to info@athlete-builder.com. And Adam, hang on here for a minute after we hang up. And for those that are looking for for habits and a system in place, the Mental Edge Academy, hit me up about that and I'll get you squared away. And thanks so much for being on, man. Loved having you and really enjoyed our time today.
This was a fun chat. Thanks for making my Friday better. Appreciate you, Joe.
Yeah. All right. See you.